Alright, guys, so I'm going to be talking about Luke Cage Gang War. This was another book sent to me by my friend Chris. Chris, thank you once again. And as you can see, yes, this is a tie-in to the Spider-Man event called Gang War. I did talk about one tie-in already, which was part of a book series I was already reading that Chris was sending me, the Miles Morales comics. So this was another tie-in, and the reason why he sent me this tie-in was because it was from a writer that I actually have been slowly becoming more and more of a fan of, Rodney Barnes. Rodney Barnes has been doing a lot of cool comics, namely in horror. Whenever you see like a vampire book, he's usually there. Philadelphia is a comic I really enjoyed, and I haven't read... Now, Chris has sent me volumes 2 and 3, and I do imagine he will be sending me more in the rest in the future, because it does a big crossover with Savage Dragon and Spawn and Blackula. And he's Barnes is a fantastic writer. I really enjoy him. I'm also interested in that Batman werewolf comic he's writing. So to see Rodney Barnes doing a tie-in to this comic series that was complete garbage. The whole Zeb Wells run is garbage, but that's neither here nor there. I was interested, and to see him write Luke Cage, I was like, cool, because Rodney Barnes is really good at talking about the political aspect through superhero eyes, or supernatural eyes in case of vampires. You don't get that with this book. You really don't. I was all excited for like a political drama and everything else with superhero antics in the background, but we don't get that, and I'll explain a bit. So for those who don't remember, Luke Cage is now the mayor of almost said Gotham City, holy shit, New York City, and there's still a vigilante act still going on. Now, during Gang War, all the superpowered criminals are fighting in a gang war to take control of New York's underworld. And Luke Cage, even though he's the mayor and a superhero himself, he can't really do anything because, well, he's bound by those rules himself, and even he says, look, those rules are still in place, and while they're crippling me and others who could really help, I still have to abide by them as mayor. But he eventually breaks down, puts on a new costume, gets together his wife Jessica, his best friend Danny, and Cloak and Dagger, and the team goes out and fights, helps the fight in the gang war. This comic really could have talked about, and I feel like Rodney Barnes really wanted to talk about like the whole thing of the implication of, the Vigilantes Act, having a superhero as a mayor of this city that's in the middle of a crisis and everything else. And you see bits and pieces of it in there. You really do see bits and pieces of that comic, of the story Rodney Barnes wants to tell. But he's overshadowed by essentially what is ultimately a tie-in no one's gonna fucking bother to read unless you're really interested. Artwork by who does the artwork? Ramon F. Blanche, and the colors by Andrew Dahlhaus. Their artwork is ass. Like, that artwork in here is really bad. Like, there are some times where faces just look all muddy. Characters look like they're melting in some places. It's really bad. And Rodney Barnes is trying his best. And the big villain of this comic is Alistair Smythe. That D-list Spider-Man villain who makes Spider Slayers. But nope, he's now suddenly, trying to take over in the gang war. An objective he's never wanted. Alistair Smythe has never wanted to be a gang lord, a crime lord. He's wanted to kill Spider-Man. Where did this come from? I guess, like, I was thinking, like, the villain Luke Cage was going to fight was one of his villains. Like Diamondback or Camestro. Or, Ma Dillinger. I don't know if she's still alive in the comics, but that would have been cool. Nope, we get a D-list Spider-Man villain as Luke Cage's opponents, and all they do is fight robots. They don't talk about, like, the political aspects or anything else. They don't delve into anything major. Nope, it's just punch a robot, and Luke Cage gets in a mech suit. That should be cool, but it really doesn't feel like it. Rodney Barnes is a great writer. Don't get it twisted. Rodney Barnes is a fantastic comic writer. But this comic is not an example of what he can do as a writer. I feel like he was constrained. I really do feel like he was constrained as a writer in this comic. It really does feel like because I know he can do better. I know damn well he can do a lot better. But the fact that they just got him in like a tie-in, and I'm sure they put so many limits on him to be like, no, you got to do this, this, and this. We're in a tie-in. You got to talk about you got to glaze Spider-Man's cock for a bit. you can talk about your issues, but only in the background, and you got to use a Spider-Man villain. Rodney Barnes on Luke Cage is perfect. Like, I would love to read an Rodney Barnes Luke Cage comic, especially with him still as mayor. I'd be down for that in a heartbeat. But that's not this. This comic is not that. This is a tie-in that feels forgettable, and it feels like Rodney Barnes got his balls put in a vice. And I don't, I can see why he doesn't do a lot of work for, I know he does work for Marvel. I know he does better work for Marvel. I know he has written better comics for Marvel and DC. But that, I feel like editorial just breathed down Barnes' neck and just made him not tell the story he actually wanted to tell. That's part of the course of mainstream comics, but that's kind of the point. Anyway, like I said, Rodney Barnes is a great writer, but this is not an example of his writing style. This doesn't feel like him. This doesn't have any of his great, writing in it. His dialogue, it doesn't feel like him. Really doesn't. And this would not be a comic I would say, if you want to check out Rodney Barnes comics, this would not be on the list. So there you go, guys. That's my review for Luke Cage Gang War. I want to thank Chris for sending me this comic, and if you've read it, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Other than that, I hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.